Hi all, and welcome to this discussion of my new Chessable course, Mighty Motifs in the London System, a chess course in 222 positions. My name is Waldemar Moes, Dutch Chess Federation licensed chess trainer from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Although this course bears the name of a well-known opening system, it is not designed as an opening repertoire course. With the exception of a few positions only, you will not come across heavy theoretical discussions and learn variations starting from move 1 against a wide variety of responses. Instead, the course focuses on the word system and is intended to be a system course. It therefore focuses on problems, patterns, middle games, endgames, etc. typical for the London system. At the same time, it has the extra benefit of simply being a course in chess, since a lot of general chess patterns and principles will be discussed and trained. Now, before we take a closer look at the course materials, I first want to take the opportunity to discuss the London system a little bit more in detail. Over the past few years, the London system chess opening has been going through a revival. This is largely due to the fact that such world top players as world champion Magnus Carlsen, Russian top GM Alexander Gischuk, and American veteran Gata Kamsky have been employing the opening system on many occasions and with success. But the London system also has become very popular among club and tournament players of lower levels for other reasons. These reasons include 1. The system can be played against nearly all setups that black chooses. 2. This sidesteps the necessity for the white player to familiarize himself with main lines against all of black's main defenses. 3. Black will not be able to play his favorite main line defenses. 4. Black therefore is often less well prepared. 5. Black reportedly often feels frustrated when having to face the London system. And 6. White can have this warm, fuzzy feeling that he's playing his own pet system and can become very good at it. Over the course of the years, a number of books have been written about the London system chess opening, and also a lot of videos have seen the light of day. I felt it was time for me to form a better opinion about the London system and see to what extent it can serve the purposes of us, the chess people. Now, for most of us, the problem of an opening repertoire is nearly unsolvable. If you choose to play all the main and principled lines, you have to become a professional. There is just too much to study. If you choose to play pet lines and systems, on the other hand, there will be definite chess technical weak spots in your repertoire. These pet systems, after all, normally violate one or the other chess principle, albeit sometimes only very slightly. I have always advised my students to play chess and have therefore mainly preached the classical and principled approaches, but in the case of the London system, I have become attracted to the more pragmatic approach of playing a pet system. Now, above we have listed a number of advantages of playing a pet system, such as the London system. These advantages are substantial, but we also have to consider the most important drawbacks. They are chess technical in nature. Now, in order to review them, let's go to the starting position of the London system. Let's click through the first few moves. We have d4, we have d5, and we have bishop f4. Now, with this move to bishop f4, white does not put immediate pressure on the center as to c2 c4 does, especially if black has answered d5. Of course, the other very popular move on the first there is one knight f6. The second, let's say, drawback is that with the move bishop f4, white delays kingside development and castling, which under circumstances can jeopardize white's king a little bit. Third, with the move bishop f4, white abandons some dark square on his queen side, most notably b2, which black can try to take advantage of. Very often in the London system, we will see that black pushes his c-pawn forward 1 or 2 squares, and then follows up with queen d8 to b6, eyeing this undefended pawn on b2. 4. With the move bishop f4, white, in the form of this London bishop on f4, offers black a target to chase and pursue. And I've drawn a number of arrows here on the board. So moves that can really bother the London bishop are e7, e5, g7, g5, and also, of course, knight f6 to h5, which very often initiates a chase of that London bishop. Okay, and last but not least, 5. With the structure c3, d4, e3, also known as the London pawn triangle, white is not taking a very ambitious stance in the center. Now this makes it more difficult for him to gain space, put a wedge pawn on the 5th rank into black's territory, and also makes it more difficult to open up lines for his rooks. Chess technically speaking, this means that there are several lines in which black can play for clear equality. Subsequently, white cannot always expect to come out of the opening with an opening advantage. On the other hand, the system is solid enough, especially since it is white who is playing a pet system and not black, meaning that with the first move in hand, he can afford a thing or two. And in that sense, I have found the London system to be fair and logical. There always seems to be a solution for white in all the lines. Okay, now that we have our expectations tempered a little bit, we can nonetheless try and forge a weapon out of the London system, much along the lines of Magnus Carlsen's approach. Okay, I may have played bishop f4, which may be slightly inferior in some respects, but from now on I intend to play the very best moves. And, by the way, dear opponent, aren't you a bit on your own now? And this is where my recent work is coming in. I have started to employ the London system in my own over-the-board games. I also practice it a lot playing online blitz games and analyzing them immediately afterwards. Out of these experiences and also collections of Grandmaster games, I have built a large database with many relevant positions for the opening, middle game and even end game stages. I must say so far I'm happy with the results and my findings. I also feel like a world traveler and discoverer of new territories. And last but not least, it teaches me a lot about chess. Because hey, in the end, in each and every opening, the pieces move exactly the same. And so I've come to the decision to share my insights with you in the form of this Chessable course. Now it's time to take a closer look at the course contents. All of the 222 study positions have been derived from games that started with the London system opening, the most notable lines being 1 d4 d5, 2 bishop f4, and 1 d4, knight f6, 2 bishop f4. Also other opening setups are included, such as 1 d4 f5, a Dutch approach to the game, or 1 d4 c5, more like a Benoni approach, etc. But only if white subsequently developed his queen's bishop to f4, which really is the main hallmark of the London system. These 222 positions have been distributed over 22 chapters that each address a specific theme relevant to the London system. Now let's take a brief look at these chapters. So, for that purpose we go back to the course's homepage and click here on Browse. And when we do that, we see a list of the 22 chapters. I'll just run through them very quickly. The London bishop chase, queen b6 attacks on b2, black's annoying knight on e4, central play, queenside play, kingside play, Greek gift motifs, the mighty bishop pair, typical exchanges, endgame technique, prophylaxis, structural opportunities, tactical opportunities. And then there is a number of chapters that teaches about how to use all the different pieces. So we have using the pawns, using the queen's knight, using the king's knight, using the queen's bishop, which is basically the London bishop, the dark squared one, and using the king's bishop, and last but not least using the rooks, using the queen, and using the king. And then the very last chapter is dedicated to opening pitfalls. Okay, now let's see how the course materials are arranged within the different chapters. For each and every one of the 222 study positions, there is a variation marked as informational. All of these have the term overview between brackets in the title. In these overview variations, the study position is first discussed and explained in its entirety. It contains the main line and all the relevant subvariations and the so-called trainable variations, as well as text explaining what is going on. I advise you to study the overview variation before you start practicing the trainable variations stemming from the study position. The trainable variations belonging to a study position all have the same title as the overview variation, but without the word overview in them. The trainable variations only contain the best or recommended moves for white, no alternatives. In many positions, however, you will be prompted to react to different alternatives for black. Trainable variations range from one move to sometimes more than 10, depending on the theme and character of the position. So, much like in a game of chess where problems always differ in nature and in complexity, you will have to learn how to solve easy and more complex problems. Now let's have a look at one example position. Okay, so if we go to the top of this page, you can see that I've opened up the chapter on using the queen's bishop. That would be chapter number 17. And I thought it would be fun just to show you an example position where we use the queen's bishop, the London bishop. Because hey, that's why we put it on f4, right? On this lovely diagonal all the way towards b8. And let me scroll down to a position that I thought would be useful to show you right now. Not too long, so it doesn't take too much time. Here we have it. It's called intermediate jack in the box. And this one is labeled informational, and as mentioned, it has the word overview in it. So now let's click on that variation, or rather let's click on the view button, because that is what you, the student, will be doing when you're actually studying this chapter. So we've just clicked it, and here we have the starting position. In this overview variation, there is text to explain everything that is going on. And let's just browse through the moves, shall we? So the correct move here is bishop d6. And probably, let's go back one move. Probably I should first also read out loud this little bit of introduction text. Black has just played c6 takes b5 and probably expected white to just recapture on b5. But that's where the intermediate move comes in. White first plays bishop takes d6. And now this is a very justified way to make use of the London bishop. The chessboard is not huge, consisting of just 64 squares, but often the square h2 is still too far away to reckon with. Well, black is forced, of course, to recapture the piece, but now that knight on d6 can no longer eliminate the knight that now will appear on b5. And this knight comes in with a double attack on the queen on d6 and the square on c7. Now, why is the square on c7 relevant? Because, hey, that's a double attack against two rooks. White will win the exchange and the game. Okay, so from here, when you've studied this overview variation, you can click on continue. And then it will say finished studying over here. That's very nice. And you will see that you will gain some points. And then you can click on exit and you will return to the chapter overview page. And here it says on the view button a little check mark. So that means that you've just studied that one. Now what you can do is go on to the trainable variation. For this particular study position, there's only one trainable variation, and you can click that one, Learn Moves. And now the time bar will start running, and there is of course no explanation anymore. So here you have to find the best move. Bishop takes d6. Black answers with queen takes d6. Now you'll have to find knight takes b5, and then in the end you'll have to find the double attack, knight c6. And then you're congratulated by the system because you've brought this trainable variation to a correct end. Okay, so let's go back to the chess course homepage here. I think I have to click here on Mighty Motifs in the London system. Yes, this is the home page for a word or two about the statistics and the quality of the course. So for that purpose, we scroll down a little bit and we take a look at the widget in the right hand sidebar on this course's homepage called Course Stats. So this course is for the wide pieces. You're learning to play the London system with the wide pieces, yeah, from the wide perspective. Then below that it says studied, but that is only relevant for the person who is logged on. So currently I'm logged on, and so far it seems that I have only studied 20% of the whole course, so there is a bit of work left to do for me. And then, also very important, this course is recommended for intermediate, advanced and expert players. So not for the casual or the beginning player, because, well, for that purpose it's just simply too complicated. Especially some of the lines are a little bit longer, and you really need to study these informational variations very well and know what you're doing and really concentrate very well when you're training these trainable variations. So obviously the language is English. There are almost 47,000 words of instruction, 675 trainable variations, and the 222 base positions, which are marked informational variations. The average line depth of the variations is 5.61. The support level is high. And that means that for the foreseeable future, I will be around to help you out, you, the student of this course, with, I don't know, support questions, maybe ranging from spelling errors to fine-tuning variations, adding variations, removing variations, what have you. Section is yours. Yeah, that's obvious because I created this one. And then let's take a final look here at the variation details. This overview shows you how the variations basically are distributed, or how many variations are distributed across the different chapters. I think the chapter Tactical Opportunities is the biggest one, and in this chapter, chapter number 13, you can find 181 variations. So that's how you should interpret this. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, a word then about the quality of the course. As far as that is concerned, the chess technical quality, all positions and variations have been computer engine checked with Stockfish 9 on a minimum depth level of 25 or higher, using 4 parallel CPUs. So you can rest assured that you will be taught good moves and not bad ones. Then some final remarks about the course settings themselves. In the Chessable ecosystem, it is set up as a so-called tactics course and not as an opening, endgame or strategy course. Now this gives you several options to train the best moves, and also was the best way for me to set up the course. For more information, by the way, on the different course types, please refer to the Chessable help functionality. And to avoid confusion, there are no soft fail alternatives. You are supposed to practice the best or recommended moves as discussed in the overview variations. Well, All that remains for me is to ask you to subscribe, like or comment on YouTube, and wish you the best of luck with this exciting new Chessable course, and express my hope that you will find it educational and reach the top of the leaderboard. From betteryourchess.com, this is Waldemar signing off. Bye bye.